Okay, thank you, Anna, and thank you, Mika, for the presentation. I just wanted to do a very quick survey, not with Slido, just hands up. How many of you have already, honest answers please, have read the description of what you're about to see on the website page? Let's see how many hands go up. Virtually no one. Okay, which means I have to read it to you, I'm afraid. So those who put your hands up, you know who to blame for the fact that I'm going to now read a description of what you're going to see. So quality in translation. Excuse me, I need my glasses. Oops. This is the first IQ test I have to get past. Okay, quality in translation today goes beyond linguistic output. The translation process involves many often invisible steps where high standards are equally important, though measured differently. This panel believes that language professionals therefore need a project-centric approach to translation automation that addresses specific quality requirements. The panel will present preliminary insights from a one-month pilot course at the IULM or IULM University in Milan, where students have been exploring and comparing different automation strategies against each other and against specific quality criteria. It will also deal with the work on quality done within the Train the Trainer working group. The course concludes immediately after this forum. In fact, we'll have to rush back to Milan for the last lesson on Saturday. So the findings we're presenting today are part of an evolving process. Okay, I'd like to present the members of our panel. With me today we have Balázs. He's an engineer and linguist who has tried his hand at natural language processing, translation technology, writing, education, publishing, compliance, and running a business. One of the founders of MemoQ, he is currently active in promoting and raising the visibility of the language industry. Balázs is a member of the Language Industry Expert Group, LIND, and is also involved in the AI Localization Think Tank, a group of individuals dedicated to clear communication and education about AI. Then we have Francesco Laurenti, who is an associate professor in comparative literature at the IULM or IULM University in Milan. He's the director of the International Center on Collaborative Translation at the same university. The outcomes of his research have been presented at international conferences and published in monographs, collected volumes, and international peer-reviewed academic journals. And he has edited special journal issues and collected volumes on translation. Then we have Diego CRESCERI, who is a seasoned entrepreneur. Seasoned. Kind of. That doesn't mean he's made of ham or anything, or cheese. And the CEO and founder of Creative Words, a leading language company based in Italy. Diego graduated from the University of Genoa with a degree in translation and interpreting. Before founding Creative Words, he worked as a translator, project manager, and chief operating officer in a local agency. With his extensive experience in the industry, Diego has a deep understanding of the challenges that businesses face when it comes to language and communication. As CEO of Creative Words, Diego is responsible for the company's strategy and growth. He's passionate about innovation, AI and machine translation, and frequently speaks about these topics at workshops, seminars, and in industry events. In addition to his professional work, Diego is former president of the board of directors of the European Language Industry Association, ELIA. He is committed to advancing the language industry and promoting cross-cultural understanding and collaboration, and isn't very good at writing very short bios. Okay, so let's get the ball rolling straight away. I'd like to ask the first question to Balázs. Can you please tell us briefly what Enterprise-Grade Localization 101 is all about and how it came to be?
It's an interesting, it kind of evolved organically. So it started with me accidentally wandering into the UM Corpus campus. I I didn't know where I was. I was in Milan, Italy, for a completely different reason. But then I realized this must be a university campus, and later on I found out that this is, among other things, a translation school. So let's reach out to them and find out if we can do something together. One part of the background here is I used to teach translation technology in various, mostly Hungarian universities for 15 years prior to 2012-ish. And I was always interested in how education goes, especially as part of the LIND group. We were last year we were invited to evaluate the employability criteria and the new European Masters of Translation program applications. So I became immediately interested, and this was a really quick. I think it's. By academia standards, we were able to connect with Francesco really quickly, and then we started discussing what we could do together as industry and academia. And Francesco's first input was, let's do something around project management. And my thought was then, let's expose the students to something new, something that they might not be able to experience during internships, which we looked into when we looked at the EMT applications. And we came up with this simulated enterprise localization project that simulates an enterprise localization environment, in the sense that it has kind of the same diversity of content types. It has user interface strings, marketing materials, audiovisual components, and so various different content types. It also simulates a continuous localization project where there's not one single translation project, localization project that you finish and deliver and you're done. No, that new content is being added to this. And it also features automation, different forms of automation. And our thought was, let's make an experiment. Let's try to have the students compare the various forms of automation. And we set quite an ambitious goal, because this was, on the one hand, we went in with a goal of exposing the students to an enterprise localization environment, comparing various forms of translation automation, and at the same time trying how this could fare in education. So that's a multifaceted experiment. Obviously, we were not able to implement 100% that we set out to do, but we have a lot of takeaways. And it's also what I can give you at this very early point is that the students were made aware that such complex environments existed, that the work that they learn about, translation that they learn about, has a context in the industry at the level of end users that they probably won't get exposed to even in internships. So sorry, I'm talking too much, but I was asked to do the origin story, so.
Yeah, that's fine. So you wandered in off the streets into Francesco's office. That's more or less what you're saying. I'm wondering, Francesco, why didn't you just call the security guards and get him kicked off of the campus?
That's not 100% how it happened.
Okay. Okay, I think the meeting, the first meeting we had with Balázs could be the subject of a short novel in the way actually it happened and in the speed of the results it brought very, very soon. Thanks to Diego CRESCERI as well, who was, let's say, the mediator between us at the very beginning, at least, and then was full part of the project. Now, first of all, let me say that it is a privilege for me today to be here to discuss this vibrant initiative that, according to me, embodies perfectly the spirit of innovation and quality in translator training. One of our shared missions, I believe I can say, is to strengthen translation education, as Balázs was saying. And I am delighted to highlight the profound synergy between innovative academic research and cutting-edge professional training, which are also the result, as he said, of us being part or members or partners of the EMT program, the European Master of Translation. We are all deeply committed to fostering such synergies, I would say, and this training project not only represents, according to me, a collaboration between academia, industry and practitioners, but also marks a significant step forward in blending rigorous academic research with professional hands-on training. Now, I believe that blending academia with industry, it's like asking a translator to work without a dictionary. Almost impossible and potentially a disaster. But I am also firmly convinced that it is in the synergy between the university environment and the language services market that is very, very critical, and it is exactly in this fertile intersection that innovative research can actually flourish, while students at the same time can transform into the professionals ready to tackle real-world challenges. Well, Mike, as I say, the very beginning of our meeting was kind of particular, and but I would like first to mention, before going on with the let's say, relating about this experience I would started, I want first to mention an important survey from about 8 years ago in Italy, promoted by the Italian National Agency for Active Labor Policies, which was published in leading national newspapers and magazines, and actually was overlooked by many professionals in the sector, that revealed that among the most wanted professionals in Italy 8 years ago, there were interpreters and translators. In fact, the situation was this: companies' demand for professional translators and interpreters appeared actually to exceed the qualified supply of translators and interpreters. This led, the survey said, to a situation where applications were inadequate or even lacking, resulting in about the 70% of difficulty rate in finding professionals for translation and interpretation roles. This is an interesting number, I believe, 70%. And this survey actually prompts some reflections. First, considering that aspiring translators and interpreters are, or at least were, increasing every year, the translation industry's difficulty in finding university-trained professionals well prepared for the profession could stem actually from a gap between the actual demands of the global language market and the adjustment of university training processes, which maybe too often are still a little bit, if not inadequate, sometimes a bit obsolete, I believe. So, if the language industry was looking for interpreters and translators, but in the 70% of cases failed to engage sufficiently qualified candidates, it became clear to me that the reason was to find in the distance between the language industry and academia. Graduates were trained, of course, as interpreters and translators, but without the full set of competencies and skills the labor market actually required. This situation, of course, resulted from the gap, as I said, between the language market demands and the education system. This does not mean that the dialogue at that time between universities and language industry was lacking, but it was evident that a strong synergy was actually needed and
Okay, yes, that's very clear. But I'm sure everybody now wants to know exactly how Diego got involved in the project. Was he loitering around the campus as well? Or?
was here.
No, I actually was not. I was in Warsaw for an EMT meeting, and Francesco was not replying to Balázs emails. And so I put them in touch, and I texted Francesco and asked him to get back to Balázs for this project. Now, seriously, what I did as Creative Words is I provided some of the materials that were needed for the course. Then we had to discard some of them because of privacy concerns, and Balázs promptly added his own materials, but we still have some materials coming from us, and I also put in touch Francesco, IULM, Balázs, all of us, with ELIA, with the European Language Industry Association you were mentioning, and ATC, because they have, the course is hybrid, we didn't mention that yet, so there's some classes. On Saturday we're gonna have the last one finally. Kidding, I love it. And but it's still Saturday. And we have some live content that we provide, and part of that content is provided by ATC, which is the Association of Translation Companies in UK, and ELIA, which is the European Language Industry Association. So we are going also beyond the borders of Europe. We are going to UK also.
Which is outside Europe, yes. Okay. I'm sure everybody here is also thinking, but what about internships? Because they've always existed. Why is this different from an internship? Why is internship not enough? I don't know, Balázs, do you have any?
Then I'll add mine.
Happy to. An internship happens at an industry and the average language service provider or localization group at an enterprise has certain goals. So whatever an intern gets to do is aligned with the goals of the business. That's on the one hand, it's fantastic because they get industry exposure, but again, it has a certain constraint to it because it's just really partial, and you can't necessarily predict what kind of educational goals the internship will be able to fill. So when you conduct a simulated an experiment that uses a simulated environment, but in the controlled and shielded environment of academia, you are more in control of the educational objectives. And the goal is not to 100% match whatever happens at an enterprise. My company has a client in the life sciences industry. They have a quality assurance process that is mainly based on back translation, but has more than 100 steps. It's incredibly complex, and obviously when you are in education, you don't start by exposing students to that level of complexity. And we actually had to make a lot of simplifications to the project so that they are exposed to the things that we believe they need to expose to. And one of the objectives was to create a kind of openness that makes them not necessarily fully 100% ready to plunge into a complex enterprise environment, but they could acquire the necessary level of awareness and openness so that they are able to learn what it takes to participate in that project. So, and that's something I really strongly believe in, and yeah, but I don't want to take more time. Yeah.
I don't know.
Can I add something on the same question?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Well, Francesco, you have the right numbers. I believe we have 80-ish students.
Yes.
And organizing an internship for 80 students is not easy also. I was discussing with Valeria how many companies are not even considering internships. So I think it was an early and quick access to an internship kind of thing for the students, which is something that shouldn't be underrated. Because organizing so many internship would be maybe impossible in an enterprise. In Italy, well, good luck. So,
Okay, that segues us nicely into the numbers. I know Francesco has something to say about the number of different students, but also the number of different institutions involved and associations.
Yes, here are some numbers for the project EGL 101. So there were more than 30 people involved in the organizational process, both from IULM and our partners, MemoQ and Creative Words, and 149,000 people were reached via social announcements and personal communications about this project, which was going to start very soon. And the 48 hours is the number of lessons the participants are, let's say, for the participants, 24 in person and 24 online. 84 is the number of the participants, which we divided in 21 groups of 4 people in each group, and we actually even the division in groups was not a casualty. It was just somehow we reflected on that, and now to organize the groups. We can talk about that later. And we have 12 hours of video lessons provided by MemoQ, 12 hours of video lessons provided by the European Language Industry Association. 5 traineeships were activated for MA students at IULM, and 65 of the participants will receive the so-called badge of honor, which is a kind of a label that students at IULM University receive when they attend particular innovative courses in the university or outside the university.
And that allows them to get extra credits for their...
Yes, yes, and they get extra credit for this as well. Yes, these are some of the numbers.
Okay, moving on from the numbers and sort of thinking of Diego mentioned it, the fact that the course is hybrid. Why was it decided to do it as a hybrid course and not totally an in-person course?
Well, I'm not sure I have all the answers for that, but part of this, I came into that like this was a premise. So this is what I was told by Francesco, that this would be a hybrid course, and then we designed it to be a hybrid course, and because it was a hybrid course, it's very strongly based on project work carried out by student groups of 4 people, so that the so-called distance learning phases that we had, basically 3 weeks, have a lot of kind of homework, project work that is done by the students. And when we come together on these Saturdays, we are discussing the outcomes from the various steps that they were required to carry out during the week. We also provide some extra presentations and insights into, but what the result was, and we were just one sentence because we will talk about the results more. It was that we had quite lively interactions with the students. My absolute delightful surprise was that the students were not shy to speak up, and they were able to control the discussion to a level that I didn't see with previous student groups. The topics and the way the communication went was not 100% of what I envisaged first, but this is not a bad thing. So,
yes, I think it should be underlined that this is the first time. We believe this is the first time this type of course has ever been done. So
an experiment.
It's an experiment. So obviously, we all hope that there will be future editions, and we're learning from this time round what we might want to change in future editions.
what I say to the participants the first day the course started, I say that they were actually participants, but at the same time the actors and constructors of this course and project, because we were somehow the directors, but we needed their response, their impressions, and that this was fundamental for the success of this project. And they actually reacted very well.
Yes, Francesco, you mentioned the group formation. Can you add some details? Why were the groups formed the way they were?
Okay. So talking about the group formation, I was just going back for a second to what Balázs was saying about the fact that they were, we actually wanted them to work not always in the same place together, but to have them work together but online or with software, but in a distance, let's say, no? Because it is part of the way teams work and collaborate today. So they were trained as well on these aspects, and this was a specific reason as well. We wanted the course to be structured in this way. My experience tells me that when a group of translators is working together, if there is a too experienced translator in the group, the risk is to flatten the result of the translation, because there is a kind of, let's say, respect from or by those who are less experienced for the translator, the leading translator, or the most experienced translator. So I wanted to avoid this situation, which because we already studied this situation, we did research on how to form groups and what happens in groups when they have different experiences like this. We actually divided the groups, the 21 groups, with groups which were formed by translators with more than 7 years of experience. And on the other side, other groups were formed by translators with less than 5 years of experience. These, according to us, or we are studying and we don't have the results yet, but we expected these to have a better impact on the quality of the translation at the end of the work. So we will see if, for example, groups formed by more experienced translators will work better or not than groups formed by non-experienced translators. And as part of the actions we did in the last 2 years at IULM with the International Research Center, which I direct, we actually examined and we actually asked in surveys after similar experiences to this one. I mean that the students in the last 2 or 3 years worked in the master degree courses with CAT tools and with tools prepared for collaboration, and we actually asked them their perception before the experience and after the experience, and one of the answers they gave is that before the experience they would have been very, very scared or somehow blocked before making a correction to a more experienced translator. While after they did the experience with these collaboration projects, they were very happy to find in themselves that the perception changed, and they said that they felt much more confident in constructing the solution with anybody in the group, more experienced and less experienced.
I saw Diego reach for the microphone.
Yeah, because Francesco, you mentioned the communication, that they were communicating online during the week. And I was there last Saturday, and I was talking with the groups, and I saw someone started using WhatsApp. Someone started using Teams. They basically self-organized themselves, also based on the fact that some students were working during the day or during the night. And this also simulates a real case where you can communicate in different time zones. And I found it very interesting, and I loved how the students organized themselves with that.
And it's very useful for us as well to have all these communication channels. Here you can see communication. We have different platforms and instrument tools to communicate among coordinators. We created different WhatsApp chats and Microsoft Teams groups among us to share information and updates. On the other side, the online course and distance learning, for it, we created a Microsoft Teams group where participants can find info materials, SharePoint, ask questions through the chat. And at the same time, we created different 21 more different group Teams channels for each working group. Then we had the channel for accessing to MemoQ Academy, and we also had the access to the ELIA platform. You can imagine how much communication, and this communication for the research center, for the researches we are conducting on this project is very, very, very useful. So we keep trace of everything, and we are already studying it and publishing some articles about that.
Okay, but what type of professional are we actually training through this course? Can we still talk about translators, or are these potential project managers? What's the goal?
Well, if you ask me, Mike, I have a bit of harking back to the panel that we had earlier today. I have a bit of a dissenting opinion about the role of universities, and what I believe universities still should turn out all-round intellectuals. Because what my experience is, and this is also from my organization, I work with product managers who design software, but originally they have a degree in Latin language, or they have a degree, they have a PhD in history. Or one of our lead developers is an agricultural engineer who made a hard left turn to train himself as a software developer, and he became one of the best. So the way I see universities, and it's me, is a place where you can achieve adaptability. So if the superpower of being an all-round intellectual is that you are able to adapt, you are able to learn new skills, and you are not constrained into one specific line of work that employers sometimes expect universities to produce. But I'd like to remind everybody that universities are not the training departments for businesses, and they shouldn't be. And businesses are better off if they get professionals who can learn the things. If you constrain them into a single line of work, they won't be able to do that. And I encountered many translators who express indignation at the fact that they need to pick up a new line of work. And in I hate bringing up my example, but I had to learn at least 3 professions that were 100% alien to my original training. And because of that, what we need to do at university education is to obviously provide some real-life experience, which is how this course was designed, kind of. But at the same time, what we want to achieve is not the full practical knowledge for the students to be able to just go to, I don't know which, either to the DGT or to any enterprise and be up to speed right from the first moment in the localization team, but to have that level of awareness, to openness and interest, so that they want to read up, experience more, and have the fundamentals so that they understand what they are reading. For instance, about subtracting vectors if they need to.
Does that in some way then tie into, it was written in the abstract, I have to say, this train the trainer working group? Is it connected in some way?
Yes, and I remember we had this EMT meeting a couple of weeks back where I had the exact same question. I'm so sorry that I don't remember who the asker of the question was, but on the one hand, the very direct answer to that is that there are actual practicing trainers sitting in the course. The PhD students who are required to have teaching experience, whatever. That's obviously the direct and least interesting answer to this. But what we are trying to create, and that is the most ambitious part, is a kind of blueprint for similar courses, and we are really far from it reaching its final form. We will have a lot of recommendations, a lot of takeaways, a lot of recommendations where you say that, yeah, this is what we did and this is what you should avoid. But if this is in any form to become a blueprint for other universities, for instance, in the EMT network, to do anything similar, then it will help the institution itself to get trained instead of, and get new experience instead of just the individual trainer. So when I think of the trainer, I don't only think of upskilling the trainer who is training the translator, the language professional. That's a term I like using lately. But the entire institution and the mindset of the institution. Why? One of the reasons I believe this is important is that there is a very artificial divide between humanities and science. And my favorite article written by researchers at the Victoria and Albert Museum was recently pulled from the internet, so I'm building a bibliography about this again. But that divide is not too old. If you think of Leonardo da Vinci, he was able to paint a Last Supper, and he was also, in theory, design a helicopter. And one of the reasons he wasn't able to construct working prototypes of these machines is that the appropriate energy sources didn't exist at the time. So yeah, that's also one of the things I kind of took as a mission to work and mitigate this divide between humanities and STEM.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on to let's say the feedback and the takeaways that we've got from the first 3 lessons in the course, I wanted to ask Diego, as director of an LSP, what have you brought to the course?
Well, not much. Oh, I bought the materials. And, well, I think the students will confirm or not. I'm bringing my experience when the groups divide in different classes, and I try and coordinate the discussions. I try to encourage them to speak up when they come back to the plenary. That's not always easy if they're doing a great job. And I try to kind of coach them. I try to ask the right questions for them to. Sometimes the students, they think they have nothing to say. Sometimes, I remember one example, we do different things. So there's the post-editing workflow, the AI workflow, the 2 AI workflows. And I remember the post-editing group was reporting that there was not much work for the reviewer because the first round of post-editing was good enough for them. And I encouraged them to speak up and explain why they thought so, for instance. So this is my role, I think. Other than providing the materials, I try to really make them reflect on what they discovered. Sometimes they don't know that they discovered something good. And so this is what I'm trying to do.
Can we talk a bit more about the materials? Because there were different types of materials because the processes were designed in different ways for different groups. Is that right?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Balázs, because Balázs provided most of them. Yeah, we have some documentation, we have marketing materials, we have audio visuals. We also, at the last class, we invited someone from, should I say, AI dubbing company? Should I say that? Yeah. It was, yeah. So we also invited this company from Italy for They have an AI dubbing tool and video localization tool, actually. So different materials, and from the feedback I got from the students and we got in the plenary, the audio part was the most difficult one. Yeah, and sometimes some students didn't have access to the source video, so one of the issues they found was about the gender of the speaker, which was, I think, translated as a he when it was a she, or maybe even the source would not reveal anything about gender, so they didn't know what to choose, actually. And that was someone from MOQ, so very specific role, I think, I think it was a programmer or developer, and it was actually a she, if I'm not mistaken.
She was
A trainer, yeah. So different materials, we expose them to audiovisual, subtitles, documentation, marketing, was a she, yeah.
Okay, just over to Francesco again. I think you might want to add something else about the research aspect of the project.
Yes, something we believe it is important is and give value, I believe, to this project is the fact that the different steps, the different parts of the process are all monitored and analyzed and studied. And because we really believe that in the quality, we did a lot of research in the quality of translation. And when I say quality in translation, I mean quality in the translation process, quality in the translation product, and also, very importantly as well, quality in the education, quality in the translation training. I believe that there can be no, let's say, quality translation without quality in translation training. So, considering to these, believing this, we really believe these. And of course, many changes happened in the last 2 years. We have, of course, with the AI and all these. And it is very important to analyze as well the synergy between humans and machines in this moment, trying to find the best path, or let's say how to strengthen this collaboration. So we don't have the result yet of what we are doing at the moment with this project, but for example, before, in the last 2 years, our past research results actually on quality and let's say that to reach quality of outcome, process and training as well, and the successful collaboration, we realized that it was assured, first of all, when a work method is clearly defined, then when the correct tools are used, and then, well, the whole process is monitored. This is a fundamental aspect. For example, our past research results to similar courses, actually, from the point of view of quantitative analysis, actually, the perception of the participants, of students, was that after this experience, in 82% of cases, they actually, for example, realized how complex, they said, they had the perception of how complex the professional translation is, which is something that they didn't have before. But we actually arrived to this monitoring thanks to the research which is accompanying such projects. When we reflect about outcome and process, that is that on the left side we have the survey before the experience, the ability referred to the ability to organize translation work implementing this approach, and on the other side we realized that there was actually an evolution. Almost 25% of participants realized that the effect was excellent from this experience. And that is why today with them, with Mike, Diego and Balázs, we are implementing and actually choosing this path to follow. And about the ability as well to relate with colleagues, when we monitored these, the previous experiences we had at IULM with the research center, we actually, before the experience, 6% of participants say that their ability to relate with others was very poor. 6% was not aware at all of how their ability would have been in relating with others. We realized that after this experience, almost 20% of participants say that their ability became excellent in relating with others, and 65% very good. So these are aspects that we analyzed in the past, and it is the reason why, as far as we, let's say, realize outputs, and this is an output of our research as well. This project represents somehow something we are realizing as an output, but we decided to go let's say, to investigate in this direction and realize such a project, just because in the last few years we had the confirmation, and we were sure this would lead to success.
Okay, I noticed that Anna and we have stood up. If I can get in one more question before we go over to the public. The course hasn't finished yet. The last lesson is on Saturday, but do we have any preliminary takeaways that we want to talk about?
The main one, maybe.
It's too short. So my main takeaway is that the whole plan was too ambitious for the duration of the course, and many students make it about technology, because the automation workflow obviously uses translation management system equipped with various AI and different tools, and they make it about technology, and that seems to be a major source of stress. So whoever does that course after us will need at least 2 weeks at the beginning for the students to be able to ease into the technology and develop the awareness for everything else after this initial period of easing into the technology. So that's my main takeaway for now. It could be different because we conclude the course on Saturday, and then we begin collecting more feedback and documenting the whole thing.
Do you want to add anything, Diego?
No. No. I mean, that's probably the main one. I'm sure we'll get more. There's one that is too long to explain, probably about the fact that the students, some of them, complained about having this only experiential learning rather than front lessons.
Yeah, typical.
Yeah, but we adjusted that, so this is feedback we got in the middle of the course. So,
Francesco, do you want to add anything quickly about takeaways?
About the 2 weeks that Balázs suggested to start before the course, actually this is due to the fact that some of the participants, and these are the numbers, out of 80 participants, almost 15-20 of them actually never used CAT tools before. Okay, so this is important. So that is why we had 2 kinds of participants to this course, okay? They were all interested in learning and having this very professionalizing, let's say, training, but they never had used CAT tools before. And have you taken any previous localization courses? Almost 80% of them said no, and 15 of them said yes. So that is why, let's say, the heterogeneous, the fact that there were different kinds of participants actually asks for a course, let's say, you know, to train those who were not trained before.
Okay, so I think it's time for you all to get your own back on me with some nasty questions, because I asked more than one during this conference. Is there anyone in the audience who has a question?
Marina over there.
I don't know if, yeah, now it's working. Thank you very much for your contributions. I believe that this is an excellent initiative in order to bring some clarity into what we do to the industry and to the market. But on one of the main issues we have as an industry, I think you may agree, is the lack of a clear statement that the end clients, the buyers, can understand in order to what we bring to the table. while the collaboration between academia and LSPs and translation companies is an excellent effort towards improving our practice, I believe that we still need to step above and try to reach the end buyers. I don't know if it sounds feasible to you, whether there would be place for an initiative in order to place an insider, to trainees, or to put someone with knowledge about the localization industry in the end buyers, on the end buyer side. So for example, any motor companies in Italy, and since many of you are based in Italy, and the fashion industry, which is huge, and they have localization divisions because they do have a localization strategy. Do you think that would be feasible in order to integrate this type of program into the end buyers structure? Thank you.
Do you have anything to say about that, Francesco, maybe?
Actually, you mentioned now the fashion sector. We are, in the last 2 years, we have been studying a lot localization in the metaverse. So in virtual reality and in the metaverse. So we are in touch with companies, firms and brands from the, let's say, the phygital fashion. This is the way now it's called in the physical and digital world of the metaverse. And we are trying to make them more sensible, let's say, to this. To kind of, they need to be trained somehow, even the market. And I believe that when the language industry promotes their products somehow, the fact that they present the results of their job as a collaboration with universities, this helps a lot when they face with end buyers, let's say. So, and the same thing is for us. For when academia presents or offers the professionals or the professionals to the market of the languages, to the language industry, sorry, it is very important for us to promote the strong link that is that actually made it possible to train these translators and interpreters with let's say the language industry.
Okay, any other questions from the audience? I did see another hand over there. Yeah.
Be good, Marina.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I totally agree, Balázs, it's very ambitious, not only because you had such a short time, but also because of the time when you decided to have such a course. So I think we can all agree here that currently we are at a turning point. The industry is changing, especially from the point of view of the empires and the big enterprises. And having such an education right now might be risky because we may be fossilizing past processes and not knowing enough at the moment to prepare the future workforce for the future that is still not quite clear. So my question to you is, can you give us the reassurance, and can you give us an example from this initial pilot? What did you do to prepare the students for the future? What kind of exercises? And I'm personally interested because I'm interested in internships, and I want to know what these people will know at the end.
Yeah, complex question, and I'm sure I have the time to do justice in terms of the complexity of the answer, but the part that I believe we did here is the diversity of the content and of the automation approaches that we expose the students to. So the student groups were working with 5 different, every student group was assigned one form of automation out of 5. And when they come together, they 2 groups were always paired together, so they were able to compare the workflows that they were working with, and the workflows were all workflows that are currently being in use by end buyers. What we did, and this is one of the things that MemoQ brought here, is that we have a synthesized knowledge of the end users that we are providing solutions to. So that the workflows that the students were exposed to were distilled from the actual workflows that the clients use. So that in that sense it was realistic, and that it's a controlled environment. This is what I believe in. It was simplified and generalized enough so that our hopes are, and obviously there is no guarantee because it involves human beings, and you don't program human beings, not even in the way that you reinforce train an LLM at the third phase. But my hopes is that they will be able to extrapolate from this kind of diversity so that they will be able to grasp and use new forms of workflows, automation, new forms of working.
Yeah, if I may add to this, I think the most important skill that they are developing is critical thinking. And I think this is endless. And yeah, the shorter answer. Yeah, I think it's technological, agnostic, even if we use MemoQ, of course. So but they're really developing more, I believe, soft skills than hard skills. And these make me say that they'll be ready for the future, yes.
I'm afraid here's where I step in and remind you that your time's up. And thank you very much for the interesting debate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.